ready. You ready?
Ready to go?
Sir?
All right. So we're going to bring the meeting to order. And with that, public comment, but we have nobody signed up for public comment, so we will proceed to,
Do the pledge and prayer.
what's that?
Pledge and prayer.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we will proceed to the pledge and prayer. All right, here we go. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have been fortunate enough to have Mr. Rick intervene between us and the heavenly power, so if you could,
Prayer?
please.
Okay, fine. Oh, Father God, we just sit here, Lord, we thank you. We thank you for the sunshine. We thank you for the mild November we've had. Lord, may you let this continue, and may your light keep shining upon this county and everything we do, Lord. We know that it's you in charge, and we thank you much, and praise to God. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, thank you. Well said. All right.
And Katrina, good to meet you.
Good to meet
So-
you as well.
Oh, there you are. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was that trip from DC.
And the trip from DC was intense, but once I got to the Queen Anne's County side, it was smooth sailing.
All right, so we had a public session, but nobody signed up, so I guess the next business is Mr. Michael's exposition of the closed session.
Okay, so report from the closed session is that the board authorized and decided to sell the property, dispose of the property at 205 East Water Street. Currently, it's being done under it's a sale by owner capacity, and they have authorized me to kind of follow through further and take some further steps in that action. Secondly, the board voted to decide to move our board meetings from every month to every other month. Still the second Monday at 4 o'clock, but it'll start in January and it'll happen every other month thereafter. And our bylaws have July as our annual meeting, so that'll still be able to happen. And I think after that, there were no other decisions made in the closed session.
That completed, do we have a vote or a motion to approve the minutes? Somebody?
I'd like to move to approve the minutes as read.
Second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's done. All right, now we've done public comment, so executive director, please, sir.
Okay. I'd like to also get my welcome in of Ms. Lewis here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katrina, for joining us. The 27th, she was appointed to the Housing Authority Board with her term running through June 30th, 2028. She wasn't able to make the first meeting, but we since had an orientation setting. We had a nice lunch. She also joined us in several other board meetings at the Fisher Manor open house we had. That was awesome. And it's just great having you join us, so thank you very much.
Nice to be here.
Your background is as assistant teacher at the House of Representatives Child Care Center, and previously you were at Kennard Elementary School, right?
Yes.
And you've also contributed to the community through your role as a policy counsel for Head Start in this county. And we now have a full board with no vacancies. So that is, I think, potentially my first since I've been the executive director. I just want to draw your attention that I've told you in past that in your packets are the monthly statistics, and you can peruse them at your own leisure. But the idea is that we have monthly statistics there that we like to track and follow ourselves. And I will also talk that we have weekly statistics that as a staff we look at our weekly team meetings. So you can kind of look those over and see. Hopefully they've become, every time they become a little bit easier to read, interpret. So they're there for you at any time. I would like to just remind you that on December 5th, we are having our board retreat at the Hilton Garden Inn, Kent Narrows. It's going to be between 8, so start arriving between 8:30 and 9, and it'll run up until about 2:30 or 3. I'm looking to make it a positive, engaging event where our usual updates, beyond our usual updates. And we're going to begin with shifting discussions and policies towards longer-term planning so that we're talking a lot about day-to-day stuff, and we're working on that. And like you all said, that hopefully we're kind of dealing with those issues. Now I'd like to start, you guys have all asked me different questions about more longer-term things. I'd like to start having those discussions. We also have in the plans, I was talking with our facilitators of the retreat. We're going to have somebody from HUD talking about what they see in Housing Authority. We are going to have Don Bibb has been invited, who's another Housing Authority director who's very well regarded. Commissioner Corcorino is going to be there and talk from his perspective from the county. And then, so those are a couple. We also have our person from Economic Development, person from Planning and Zoning, Kathy Wills, will also be there to do some things. In addition to all of our Housing and Housing Authority staff will be there. So it's going to be that chance where people get to interact and then work apart and come back together. And it's going to be a good day, just helping us refocus. So I appreciate you all being willing to attend, and I'm looking forward to that event. I think it'll be fun and a nice day, and we'll also get some good stuff accomplished as we work to move forward.
And that was December 5th?
December 5th, arrive between 8:30 and 9 at the Hilton Garden Inn. And as always, go ahead.
It's 8:30 a.m.
Location again?
8:30 a.m.
That's the location?
At the Hilton Garden Inn.
Okay.
Yep. So another update, and I started all this, and you all had a pretty good discussion on it, but I also let you know the Housing Authority has been looking at our options for incorporating solar energy at Fisher Manor. And the idea is to lower energy costs and contribute to sustainability. Initially, we considered a proposal from Building Change, Inc. for installing rooftop solar panels. The option included a $650,000 grant proposal from the Maryland Energy Administration, and it covered multiple phases from project planning to post-installation monitoring. Rooftop solar panels offered a potential savings for residents and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. However, concerns arose regarding the potential maintenance needs, the roof's longevity, and the efficiency of the panels over time, as well as the likelihood of redevelopment of Fisher Manor at a time in the future. So after a very comprehensive view, including consultations with stakeholders and technical assessments, we decided to pursue community solar through Nexamp instead of installing rooftop solar. So the community solar option presented several advantages. It would allow broader access to renewable energy benefits without structural alterations, without us having to rebuild any solar panels to Fisher Manor. And it reduces the complexities associated with long-term maintenance of those and enabling flexibility for future redevelopment plans.
How is that generated, that power?
It's generated, they have fields and of solar panels, and then they just offer us a piece of those. And overall, the bottom line is that we're able to get about a 15% reduction in our folks' field. And they can each decide if they want to do it or not, but they get basically 15% reduction. So that's the positive. The negative right now on the flip side is if it's not going to initially, it may not get as much as if you'd have gotten a solar panel on your roof, but that still was questionable. We still saw no proof of that. The other negative right now is that they're going to get two bills. They'll get a bill from Delmarva Power and they'll get a bill from Nexamp. And while you add those two bills together, it'll still be less than what their electric bill was. Getting two bills, it gets in your psyche a little bit, and we'll have to do some education around that.
There's no
Go
way
ahead.
around that they,
Well, right now, they say, Nexamp says that it's something to do with the state legislature and their requirements. Now, there are other states where they only have to get one bill, but in Maryland, so I'm hoping that, maybe that the legislature will help us out with that and make that a little bit, so that that's not an issue anymore. That's what I'm hoping for, but it won't happen as soon as we would want it to, that's for sure. So it would have to be education. Nexamp says they're willing to do education for us. And help with that. And then they also are, and it's also, if we do it right, we can make it available to all of our community developments, to all the residents, not just the folks at Fisher Manor. But on the same point, they wouldn't be required to do it if they didn't want to or were uncomfortable with it. I brought up the idea at Foxtown at a residents council meeting last week, And there are several there that are pretty boisterous, that they did not want two bills. They just, I said, well, 15% change, nope. And that was literally what they said, nope. It's kind of, are you sure it'd be 15%? Nope. And, it's okay. And there were a couple that said, well, I would like to pay 15% less. So that's where it gets to, the folks who don't want to do it do not have to do it. So, another thing since the last meeting is I've been working with Mr. Barry Gaudette. He's from Michigan, even though his name makes him sound like he's from Louisiana to me. He's our auditor. He's been the auditor for the Housing Authority for years. So I worked with him, and he's finalized the work papers for our audit and plans to mail them to his reviewer in Texas if he hasn't done so already. They're completed, they'll be dated December 31st to align with review deadlines. And it's possible that his reviewer may not review them till earlier in the winter, in the January months. But he will definitely have the final submission of our audit to the folks at HUD and other places by the end of February. So that's done. Another thing, I don't know if you're aware of it, but in recent supervision sessions, I've reflected on Housing Choice Vouchers program. And I understand its overarching principles of our Section 8 program, but I recognize that there's critical details where I could benefit from a deeper knowledge in that area. In most areas, I can fill gaps through research and delegation. However, with Housing Choice Vouchers, the stakes feel especially high given that our substantial budget. We get a lot of money for Housing Choice Vouchers. It serves almost as many clients as we do through our traditional conventional housing. And it's just something I want to have a better handle on. I know enough, but I want to know the details. So I say all that to say that I'm working on putting together and attending a training for myself that's put on by Nan McKay, which is a Housing Authority training group. I've done other trainings by them. They've got a training specifically for Housing Choice Vouchers in March. And it's down in South Carolina, so I'm thinking about trying to get down there and participating in their training for that. As always, I'd like to thank Queens County TV for their live stream. They are now live streaming us on the internet through various social media channels and also on their regular channels. So we are going out live thanks to the folks at QACTV, and I'd like to thank them for all their work to do that. What I will say though is that when people ask us to do on-site meetings, it makes it a lot more difficult to be able to provide TV if we were to go on-site. So the on-site board meetings are going to have to be extremely limited, and we'll have to have most of our board meetings here in this room because they've got all the infrastructure for TV. Another thing that I want to just mention real quick is that our SACS, Scott Accounting System Commuter System, that is our Housing Authority computer management tool. It does everything from our tenants to our bookkeeping, to our work orders, to our budgeting software, to our tenant tracking, to housing management. And it's a system that has been around and chosen by the Housing Authority for some time, and it's the backbone of what we do. It's also been the bane of our staff's existence. It's been hard to understand at times. It breaks down at times. And I didn't realize this, but none of the staff that are currently there have been formally trained in it, although the ones that have been with the Housing Authority for some time do a very good job with it. They've never been formally trained. So in that process, and I know that the finance office with the county has told us they want us to continue to use our bookkeeping software to keep it separate to do that. So with that being said, I am currently working to bring a training to our staff, hopefully in early December for SACS, where they actually, what I've told them is to treat us just like we're getting a new system, treat us like that, but then be ready for deeper end questions after we do that. SACS is working on that. The one thing they've said is that they want us to make sure our system is tight and working well before they have that training so that they can train us and there's no glitches as they're training us. So that is where we're at right now. There's been an issue, like for example, if we have a tenant who is a Housing Choice Voucher recipient, Section 8 voucher recipient, and they happen to live in one of our conventional apartments, SACS is throwing a bunch of wrenches in that somehow, and it's making it difficult and really confusing our staff and me and becoming frustrating. SACS is aware of that issue and they're working on it, but that's like an example of some of the stuff we're trying to work out. To totally revamp and go to with a new system now, I don't think would be a good idea, but I do think we need to take the time to get ourselves trained up and get it tightened up internally, and we are working actively, and I'm working actively with SACS to do that. On a similar note,
Mike,
go ahead.
is there a point person that would be a contact for us if we had a need to speak to somebody in that office?
At the SACS computer office? Well, I do two things. One, there's a gentleman named Grant Dark, who's basically, it's a cool name, it sounds like a movie star name, but his name's Grant Dark, and he is the executive director, or like, he's like the assistant director of Scott Accounting and Computer Solutions. And I call him or email him directly when I need something. But they also have an IT helpline, and he's actually assigned his personal assistant to help us both organize this training and hash out some of these issues. And I've been on the phone, I was on the phone with her today, but I was probably on the phone with her every day last week trying to work through these things. So,
In other words, we'll leave it to you.
well, I'll say that now, but in a month when it's still a mess, I'm gonna say, you didn't leave it to me. No, but yeah, hopefully we'll get that worked out. It's computers, there's always something with it. And then the same thing, one of the things, like when Pete Scaling came in and other folks come in and go through our filing system, we have a filing system, which is through the Laserfish platform. And that platform's a great platform. Everybody says the platform's great. But our system, our files over the years have gotten kind of out of order, and different people feel different ways about how things should be filed. So I just want to let you know, as a staff, we've started working to try to tighten up the filing structure within the Housing Authority also. So now we've got the maintenance team and everybody working really hard on getting everything in the maintenance going and the property management side going, and that's really making some progress. And now we're trying to do some of those internal admin steps too, as simultaneously we move towards thinking long-term about where we want the Housing Authority to be. So you can see there's a lot of things kind of happening through the director's report. The last thing I just wanted to mention, unless you have any questions on this, is I had the privilege of meeting with the Foxtown Tenants Association last Wednesday. It's a fun group. They're very complimentary of you all, of our maintenance staff, and how work orders are getting handled quickly. Didn't stop them from giving me another list of things that they want worked on, but I've passed that along, and Brian's aware, as is Lisa. So, but it was a very good meeting, and there's some great folks up at Foxtown, and I enjoyed it, and I appreciate them having me there that day. So that is my lengthy but director's report, unless there's any questions.
I have a question on the next amp.
Okay, yes.
To participate, is there any cost to us?
Actually, there's not only not a cost, we could get some money back. They could give us some money to I think I can't remember what the amount is, I might have it in my notes, but there's a certain amount they pay us every time, for every new person we bring on that we would decide what to do. I don't have it in my notes here, but yes. So we would get money back.
And are the people that sign up and agree to participate, are they under a contract term?
They enter into a contract that's actually kind of lengthy, just so they don't have to keep renewing it, but they are allowed to get out of it at any time they want.
Okay.
But they actually make it's like something like a 10-year contract, just because, so they don't have to re-up it every year.
Is there a certain percentage of the residents that have to participate to make it worth?
They're working, right now, one of the things that Nexamp is thinking about doing is giving us a certain block of their solar panel that would just be dedicated to the Housing Authority, and then there'd be something like that. If that were the case, yes, we'd have to try to get enough residents to cover that, and then if not, we would have to figure out if we can match the fee. But otherwise, in general, no, there is no requirement. Whoever wants to sign up for it could at that point. But I think we're going to have to negotiate and talk with them a little bit, because if we go the other way, because we're going to want them to make this offer available to all of our tenants to hopefully bring down everybody's utility bill.
Okay.
I mean, wouldn't it make more sense for them that we would be working Foxtown and Kent Island?
We just started with Foxtown because they were the ones that had the grant. So we had to do something immediate with Foxtown. So at the last board meeting, when we talked about, with Fisher. So at the last board meeting, because Fisher was where the solar panels were targeted to go for. So that was where we started with, and it's also a smaller community, so we started with them, because if they were gonna get the solar panels, we wanted to have something to kind of counter it, and that's why we started with Fisher. But hopefully, it shouldn't take that long if we want to bring up all of our population and make the offer. Once we get rolling, it shouldn't take that long to bring it all up, because we don't have to do anything other than sign folks up.
So what percent of the population do you think will migrate over to Nexham?
That is an excellent question, and because to me, if I were to look at it from a total left brain, like an economist perspective, for me, I don't see any bad side in it. You're getting 15% off your electric bill is 15%. But I also know that, I use this example, but I remember in kindergarten, when they gave me a graham cracker, I split it in half because I felt like I was getting 2 graham crackers instead of 1. So getting that 2 bills could, for folks that have a hard time paying bills or something like that, it could be a hindrance. So, I don't know how many people that's going to be a hindrance to. There were clearly some folks at Foxtown that felt like it wasn't worth it to do that.
If the 2 bills become a problem, do we have an internal designate to work with the residents to help them understand the 2-bill deal?
NexAmp has offered to do that hardcore. They have offered, and then also our staff is very much aware, and they could step in and talk about it. But that, there's some people that have some pretty firm opinions about things that you don't change sometimes.
I was thinking of moving to have his salary made in 2 checks. So,
I'd feel like it was more.
Having the 2 separate bills, does that potentially make cost increase creep less likely, because you can really identify where it's at?
I don't know if that's the purpose of the 2 bills, and quite frankly, I don't have 100%. There's a little, you can see in your packet about it, and it shows on one of the pages, I think it looks kind of like that, if you can see it. It shows the actual 2 bill idea. So I don't know, it's got the sample utility bill, and then it's got the NexAmp invoice, and it shows you how it goes down between the 2, and it shows solar credits. But I don't know if it's going to be a tool to show that, hey, I've used my washing machine, or I've used whatever electric too much, and be able to, I can't foresee it being a tool to help people lower their electric use any more than that. I mean, there might be a way that I'm not thinking about, but I can't see it.
They get a separate.
Yes, they all get their own bill through Delmarva Power, yes, they
what
do.
would you guess would be a typical bill per month for a unit?
We looked at that, Denise, do you remember what do we estimate there? Was it
Just
about
roughly.
125, was it? I can't remember either.
So, Mike, each unit is metered separately?
Yes,
Okay.
so and that would be, it'd all be independently with each individual.
I think one of the key points of this whole game would be this, that right now electric is basically priced by the cost of fuel. And right now, if the price of gas went from $3 a MCF up to $6, your electric bill would go up a lot. Is this solar, which should be disconnected from that particular, are there any guarantees that we don't get into this? Of course, the out is you can drop out of the thing, but would they price it up as the price of regular gas-fired electric went up? Would they price theirs up, or is this a future economy? Seems to me to be an interesting question to ask them.
Right, and we can ask them that. I don't know the answer, but we can ask them that, like, will they bump it up based on just because they see prices going up? Or is there-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So does each resident have two readings a month, or is the savings based upon the total amount of electric used? Is it
Yes.
The second one.
7?
Yeah.
So there's 2 separate meters? If you
No,
will.
it's
No,
one
no.
meter.
The second thing you said, which was it, 1 reading, 2 bills.
Okay, right, okay.
per
month.
unit. So-
Yeah, per unit per month.
And how do they come, I mean, like all these units, they have electric power that's for the building.
Yes. But they all have their own meter.
Attribute that cost.
What's that?
Like the hallway lights, how does that get distributed?
That doesn't. That is, we pay for that.
Yeah,
And then, they theoretically pay a piece of that when they pay their rent, but yes.
So from our basis, it's a turnkey system.
That's how I see it, yes.
do the window units provide the heat for the apartments?
P-tax.
Yes. Like a heat pump.
So their heat is incorporated in the electric bill? Yeah. Very good. Moving on.
Would they let the housing authority be part of it?
That's a good question. I'll have to ask that too. Like, in other words, our stuff, would it be part of the next sample? I know we'll get a return on it, but I will ask that too. So we'll ask about cost increases, and we will ask about, can we get in on it too?
See if you can handle 2 bills.
And on this page, the engaging and supporting, under the benefits, they do have a term that says NextSam covers most costs. So what are those costs they're not covering? And
Right.
who's going to be responsible
Okay.
for them?
I'll write that down too, and we'll ask them. When they say most, what are they not covering, basically?
Right.
All right, I've got my orders.
So, next we have some remarks on scattered site housing.
Yes, so I am going to introduce, I'll give you a little bit of background here, and then introduce Denise. So, in addition to, and I know that this was high on people's, on the board's mind, especially about 6 months ago, even before that, but in addition to managing the 5 housing developments that you all are very familiar with, we also operate a scattered site housing program. And it consists of 9 individual units across the county, and these homes provide rental opportunities for households with limited income, offering an essential resource for housing stability. So when the Housing Authority renewed its partnership with the county this past spring, it became evident that 3 of these scattered site homes, they were empty and were in significant disrepair. There's so much so that one of the property had accumulated actual nuisance violations from the Department of Planning and Zoning. So as a housing authority, we actually got nuisance phone calls saying that they were going to come out and cite us. I got the call, so I know. At the same time, we are addressing additional complaints with and operational challenges through the 5 developments. So we were working like crazy to get that going. Brian hadn't been hired yet. We were just working to do what we could do to get everything going. And we were working to streamline our work orders, bolster our staffing so we could get folks hired, and just overall improve tenant services. So background is the scattered site program is a perfect example of how the partnership with the county is really fostering new efficiencies. How when you guys decide to do that it's made a lot of sense in lots of different areas you may not even be aware of. So, and for one example, we leveraged Denise. I don't know if she likes to say we leveraged her, but we actually leveraged Denise Whelan because she's the county housing program manager. And her role with the county housing office involves overseeing housing rehabilitations for elderly and income-restricted homeowners who are unable to afford those critical repairs. So when we were going through all this, I asked her to oversee the rehabilitation of the 3 vacant and deteriorated scatter site houses that we had. And she embraced this challenge, and her efforts have been transformative, quite frankly. 2 of the homes are now fully renovated and occupied, and we are actively pulling from our wait list to fill the 3rd. So, and basically, scattered site houses came from an effort to achieve and assist families in achieving home ownership many years ago, and integrated a HUD-funded Section 8 family self-sufficiency program The idea behind the program years ago was to provide counseling and resources to address barriers to self-sufficiency while building savings through escrow accounts. So in other words, the idea was to get certain people in Section 8 the ability to start saving money and become homeowners. But unfortunately, during the time that the Housing Authority was away from the county, that program kind of slowed and then eventually closed down. And I'm still searching as to why, but reportedly due to lack of staff. So as a result, we're currently using the scattered site properties as additional rentals. We're looking ahead. I am researching how to revive this program, but there's a lot going on, but I'm researching. I was in a training last week about it. Or to implement a similar home ownership initiative to better support long-term goals for these families. But this will take some time. But in the meantime, we wanted to get the stock back up in good shape. So I had Denise do that, and I asked her to come today to talk a little bit about what she did on those 3 particular ones that were in disrepair. So Denise, do you mind coming up? And I think she's got a PowerPoint presentation that.
I do. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me. So these are scattered site houses that we addressed. Some of them, let's see.
George will put it up for you.
Once I bring it up, you should go just click right and left.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so this is 104 Wayne Street. This is in Sudlersville. This is what we walked up to with this particular house. This was not the house that got the nuisance complaint, but this is just one of the 3 sites that we had. So I tried to compile some pictures that would give you, we had a fence that was cable wired to the neighbor's shed so that it wouldn't fall over on his truck in inclement weather. The fence was removed. The back door to the storage area of the house had been kicked in, the frame was gone, and it was just absolutely unrepairable in that way. We had an antenna in the backyard. It seemed pretty dangerous to me for kids climbing it, and at the base of it was a nice concrete item that held it with wires sticking out, so that obviously I just went through the property and looked at all of the things that I thought would pose a danger to children or a resident living there. And these are just some of the things we identified. The fire pit, that's absolutely, when we opened the attic door, it was in a very angelic moment, but there was a hole in the roof. The tree had actually been overgrown and rubbed a hole into the top of the roof. So these are some of the things. Carpet was in disrepair. This is how we replaced it. We took the carpet out and we put flooring throughout the living area and down into the hallway. We trimmed it, we power washed it, we repaired the front railing and the front door. We replaced the back storage area door, power washed all of the cement, took down the fence, repaired the large hole that was in the yard that posed a danger, and that was scattered site 1. Moving on to our nuisance complaint, this is where Mike actually invited me to get involved. This house is in Chestertown, but it's at 5701 Church Hill Road. And so this is what we got the complaint on. We had piles and piles of trash back there. The contractor took away 9,000 pounds of trash. He said he didn't think that anybody had ever thrown trash away since they lived there. It was hanging out of the trees, it was stuffed in the back garage, there was trash inside the house. So we started by cleaning and clearing the back area shed, and if you could see, the dumpster was already there, but he filled it, plus did his own runs for dumping.
Now, is
This is
that
what-
the same shed we just saw a few frames
Yes, sir.
earlier?
Yes, sir.
So it's been refurbished?
It has been actually boarded up on the right side. It actually is boarded